Just 4 days before his murder, Earl Gonzales reported his truck missing. A couple of teenagers had stolen it and taken it joyriding along the scenic mountain roads in northern New Mexico. Incensed, no doubt, rumors are that mild-mannered Earl confronted the supposed truck thieves. Did he anger someone with his accusations? In the days following the mysterious murders of Earl and his 9-year-old daughter Clarissa, investigators turned up what was said to be a strange combination of facts. At the time, the district attorney assured the public that it would be sorted out in the next few days. That was back in September of 1999, and in the 24 years since then, no one has been arrested or named as a person of interest in their case. But the district attorney was right about one thing. The details surrounding this case definitely are strange. Welcome to New Mexico and the unsolved cold case of Earl and Clarissa Gonzales. In second grade, Clarissa Gonzales left her mother in Colorado to live with her father, Earl, in his home on the outskirts of Questa, New Mexico, a small mountain village in the north-central part of the state. They made an adorable pair, Earl and Clarissa, and always went everywhere together. It was the sort of sweet situation you'd expect to find in an early evening sitcom. Earl, tough but kind, inspirational and loving. Clarissa, spunky and smart, helping to keep house, baking her father cookies and pies. They lived together, just the two of them, navigating the obstacles of elementary school, small-town antics, and growing up. Earl, age 51, was a U.S. Army veteran who had served in the Vietnam War. Earl was beloved in his community. He worked as a crew supervisor for the Rocky Mountain Youth Corps, helping teens learn carpentry, bricklaying, and construction skills, all while repairing and rebuilding homes for the elderly. He is described as enthusiastic, welcoming, and committed. There's not a ton of media coverage on this case, but every person interviewed goes on and on about how wonderful Earl was. Generous and loving, always working, quick to offer a helping hand. Again, he seemed like a sitcom-level dad. It was said that, always the handyman, Earl was never done expanding and improving his own house. His mother, Josie Gonzales, said, quote, "He was always working on it and never finishing it." Earl's family had deep roots in the area, so he was well known and very involved in the community. He was a member of the Questa Volunteer Fire Department, and 9-year-old Clarissa often joined him at meetings. Clarissa Josephine Rose Gonzales was smart, energetic, and friendly. A 5th grader at Alta Vista Elementary School, she loved her family, and she worked hard in her classes. Clarissa had won the top prize at the science fair the previous year. She smiled a lot. She was described as kind, beautiful, and devoted to her father. Earl's girlfriend, Mary Jo, first became concerned when she was unable to reach the family by phone. It was abnormal for her not to hear back from Earl, so when the nagging fear that something bad had happened could no longer be ignored, on Thursday, September 2nd, 1999, she went to the Gonzales' home to check on them. Earl and Clarissa lived in a 3-story house on a hill overlooking Cabresto Canyon. They lived on Camino Sin Salida, which translates to the street with no exit. It was a quiet and remote neighborhood adjacent to the Kit Carson National Forest. There was a note attached to the front door with only one word on it. Why? It is a poignant question that I believe applies to this case very well. When Mary Jo entered the home, it quickly became clear why Earl had not picked up the phone. He was on his couch in the living room and had been shot once in the left temple at close range. She called police right away. Clarissa, however, was nowhere to be found. She was not in her bedroom hiding under the bed. She was not in the kitchen where she had once loved to bake. Could she have fled the house at the sound of gunshots? None of the neighbors had seen her, and everyone was preparing to search the hills behind her home when, to their dismay, a law enforcement officer discovered her body. She had been on the second story of the 3-story home, found on the floor in her father's bedroom. Those that have been to the scene of this crime described it as both horrid and disturbing. Initial reports to the media are that they appeared to have been killed in their sleep overnight Wednesday, 10 to 12 hours before their bodies were discovered. Clarissa had been strangled. The manual method of her death made people wonder, had she been the initial target? The crimes horrified local residents, the Albuquerque Journal reported. Autopsies were conducted on Friday, September 3rd. The time of death was determined to be early in the morning of September 2nd, sometime between 4 and 6 a.m. Friends and family buried Earl at the Poblito Cemetery in Questa. Clarissa returned to Las Animas, Colorado, to be buried where her mother lived. The Gonzales family raised money to be used as a reward for information in Earl and Clarissa's case. They set out jars and asked for donations. Crime Stoppers and the Questa Volunteer Fire Department contributed to the funds, which reached $8,000 in less than a month. Taos County District Attorney John Paternoster said that his investigators, alongside those from the state police, had turned up a, quote, strange combination of facts, which he then said would be sorted out in the next few days. Investigators had found no handgun at the Gonzales home, though there were reports that Earl had owned one. They also took several items from the home for forensic testing as possible ligatures, including a telephone cord and an electric blanket cord. District Attorney Paternoster said that there were leads and, quote, we are working them as quickly as we can. Based on the outstanding police work that has been done at this point, we have confidence that we are going to solve it. But friends and family told media that they were completely baffled by the murders. Again, Earl was beloved. He had no known enemies. And police didn't know whether the note asking only why on the front door was related to the crime. Had it been left by a killer? Or simply a neighbor or acquaintance of the family? Earl had not been involved in drugs or crime. He was not a troublemaker, said Questa Police Chief Frank Gallegos. Everybody knew him. He was well liked. Nothing of monetary value had been taken from the home. State Police Captain Rudy Acosta said that there were no signs of forced entry at the house. But people interviewed by the press noted that Earl was the type of person to leave his doors unlocked for his friends. Authorities asked the public for help locating Earl's truck. His 1994 black Ford pickup truck with the word Thunder written across the sides had been reported missing just 4 days before his murder and taken either late at night on August 27th or early in the morning August 28th. About 1 month after Earl and Clarissa's deaths, 2 high schoolers are taken into custody and questioned about their case. The 2 youth admit to taking Earl's truck joyriding in the mountains and then leaving it at a known drug dealer's residence. They claim not to know anything about the murders and, after an interrogation, are only charged with the theft of the truck. One of the local rumors that I came across was that Earl had confronted several people who he suspected might have taken his vehicle, including these 2 youths. But that rumor was never confirmed by law enforcement. Earl worked with teens at his job. Was there a history behind this crime? Was there a confrontation, an escalating situation where things got out of hand? Or was the timing of this theft just coincidence? That November, more than 2 months after their deaths, Josie Gonzales, Earl's mother and Clarissa's grandmother, told the media that this Thanksgiving, she was thankful for the state police's efforts to find their killer. Not knowing who it is haunts her. She said, quote, I just feel sometimes we're going crazy just waiting. It's been very hard on us. I really would like to know at least who did it. I'm not out for revenge or have any bad feelings, but they destroyed a whole home. Police stated that they were still looking for the large caliber handgun used in the crime and still had not identified whatever had been used to strangle Clarissa. The announcement put people on edge, said one Questa resident, who advised that everyone in the area arm themselves. The unsolved crimes in the small village of just 1,500 residents were stacking up, and so were the questions in Earl and Clarissa's deaths. Many of those people that do talk to the media request anonymity. Village in fear, the headline in the Albuquerque Journal read. Local residents tell reporters that whoever is behind the unsolved killings lives in Questa and is threatening witnesses, telling them to be quiet. One young mother said, quote, "It's scary. If you talk, they'll kill you. As long as you don't get involved and don't say anything, you're okay." She, of course, asks to stay anonymous. I guess that with comments like that, it's not too surprising that 1 year into the investigation, the reward money for information has been left untouched. Sadly, a representative with Crime Stoppers said that no one had phoned in any leads. In 2003, police announced that they had finally received results from evidence submitted to a lab in Texas a year and a half after submitting it. Multiple pieces of evidence had been tested, and the results were sending them in a, quote, new direction. What that new direction is goes unmentioned, but New Mexico State Police Agent Chad Davis said that some of the results tend to confirm our earlier theories of what happened that night. Again, in order to maintain the integrity of his case, Agent Davis does not divulge any details about his theories, but he did say that this case will come down to DNA evidence. He is also certain that these new leads will guide him to an arrest, which was a little hard to read now in 2023, knowing that this case is still unsolved. There are a few updates that Davis does share about the case. In the years since the investigation began, authorities have been able to track down the author of the ominous note, and with that discovery, satisfactorily ruled it as unrelated to the crime. I have a hard time imagining what might lead someone to leave just a single word like that on someone's door, but must trust that the police have done their work to vet this person's story. Agent Davis also states that the two young truck thieves have been ruled out of the suspect pool. Their place in this timeline is somehow just another suspicious coincidence. The state policeman is convinced that he is near to an arrest, not just because of his evidence, but also because he thinks that there are witnesses who know what happened. Davis says, "I feel there are people out there that may have been giving false information, but no more." He believes that people are scared to come forward out of fear of retaliation. If only they would come forward with honesty. The last time new information is introduced in this cold case, it comes up sort of unexpectedly, during the 2004 election. Public defender and district attorney candidate Jeffrey Shannon responds to a set of questions posed by the local paper, the Taos News. Question 6 reads, "What would you like to comment on that you're not being asked?" And Mr. Shannon uses this opportunity to bring up the Gonzales case. He says that the police do now have a person of interest in Earl and Clarissa's murders, and he asks that a recently hired cold case investigator look into this person specifically. He notes that the cold case investigator had been hired by incumbent district attorney Donald Gallegos, and he calls the person of interest a former client of the incumbent district attorney. Mr. Shannon actually states that as a lawyer, he himself defended this person in 2 recent court cases. This unnamed person of interest in Earl and Clarissa's case had been a stabbing victim twice, on New Year's, 2 years in a row, 2003 and 2004. This lead despite its own strange combination of facts, shockingly never comes up again. It makes me wonder, why? And what sort of terrible sequence of events leads a person to be stabbed 2 New Years in a row? Digging around in the newspaper archives, I did find some information about a New Year's party stabbing December 31st in 2002. However, I could not find any reports of a Questa area stabbing the following year, which was just unbelievably frustrating. Regardless, at the end of 2002, police were called to a party where a man named Jose had been stabbed 3 times. Taken to Holy Cross Hospital, Jose survives with minimal injuries. A man named Daniel turned himself in for the crime that night. He told authorities that he stabbed Jose in self-defense, that Jose and 2 other men had come after him with a gun. Daniel remembers stabbing Jose only once and then hiding in the bushes afterwards. Unfortunately, there are no follow-up articles to this one, and without more information from that cold case investigator or from Mr. Shannon, we are left to wonder, is Jose our person of interest? How does this new, strange combination of facts fit into Earl and Clarissa's case? Or does it at all? New Mexico State Police Agent Chad Davis was encouraged by the progress that they were making back in 2003. But 20 years later, there have still been no arrests or charges laid in his case. Agent Davis was confident that someone knew something important. All it would take is the right tip. If you have any information regarding this case, please contact the New Mexico State Police Cold Case Homicide Unit. Agent Davis said back then, and perhaps it is still true, we'll get them, no matter how long it takes.